At the beginning of December, NASCAR Cup Series driver and 2022 champion Joey Logano described NASCAR fans as spoiled when specifically talking about how much access they get to the drivers and compared them to NFL players. He got some heavy criticism from the Door Bumper Clear podcast and recently appeared on SiriusXM NASCAR Radio to respond to that criticism. Before we get into this, I'd like to ask you, please hit that subscribe button, hit that bell for notifications so you don't miss any of our future videos. With that out of the way, let's start off with what Joey Logano had to say at the beginning of the month. This is over at the SiriusXM NASCAR Radio official social media site. This is what Joey Logano had to tell them about NASCAR fans being spoiled. Let's take a listen here.
Our fans are spoiled, and I love our race fans, but think about other sports for a second. Think about it. When are you going to meet an NFL player? Can you access an NFL player?
Nope.
Anytime, like 3 hours before a game? No. You can.
Well, maybe if you're Taylor Swift.
Maybe, yeah, okay. Maybe if you're Taylor Swift.
One exception.
But you can meet me 20 minutes, 10 minutes, 5 minutes before I get in the race car. You can take a picture with me. I am there. And all the other racers are the same thing. They all, we walk down a red carpet, and there is people on both sides of us, and all the drivers stop and sign autographs, or at least try their hardest to, right? It's hard to get everybody, but you try your hardest to. That is the norm in our sport. That doesn't happen in any other sport at all. So to say we're not accessible is wrong. That is not the case at all. We are very accessible. And when you think of race car drivers that are staying in a motorhome now, I don't know, man. I feel like.
So that is what he had to say there. He's obviously saying that he doesn't think that he thinks that NASCAR drivers are actually more accessible than other sports. I'm going to disagree with him. I think if you go to, I haven't been to an NFL game in a while, but if you go to an NHL game, you can indeed greet the players during the warm-ups. They'll give you sticks sometimes. They throw the pucks over, the practice pucks and things like that. They also, if you go to practice and you go to warm-ups, you can get a signed jersey and things like that. So they are pretty accessible, at least on the NHL level. I think baseball is probably very similar as well. I don't know about the NFL, but it's possible. I mean, you go to Lambeau Field, they're jumping into the stands with you after they score a touchdown, right? Over there in Green Bay. So that's pretty accessible. And you see people, even in the college football levels, they'll go and greet the fans and things like that in the end zone. You'll see that sometimes as well. Obviously, that's not the same as like shaking hands and maybe having a brief conversation, but they are indeed accessible, I think. So I kind of disagree with what Joey Logano was saying here, and the folks over at Door Bumper Clear podcast did as well. Let's listen to what they had to say here. This is on their episode 316 here. They brought this up about halfway through the podcast. This is what they had to say.
You guys alluded to this earlier, but Joey Logano says our fans are spoiled in regards to the access they have to drivers during an average race weekend compared to other leagues like the NFL. Spot on, spot off, Tyler.
Hold on a second, Tyler, before you answer this, because I watched this whole video to make sure that his quote was not
out of context.
Out of context. It was not out of context.
All right, well, I'm glad you did. Yeah, he loves this. I feel like he likes to get some attention when he's on.
He's trying
on the
to.
show.
Maybe he's trying to knock Denny off the booed list. I mean, what's he like, or the top of the booed list, I should say.
I don't think that's going to happen.
Yeah, I feel like
Denny,
I understand what he
got that.
meant, but his delivery was just
So what
not the way to put it.
Tyler,
you know?
what do you think? How do you think he meant it?
I mean, I don't know how he meant it. But from my perspective, yes, the fans get a lot of opportunities to, I feel like it's easier to get into a garage, a Cup garage, Xfinity garage, truck garage, than it is to, well, I guess can't really compare truck and Xfinity, right? It's a different level, but like when I went to see a Broncos game last January, I mean, it took knowing some serious players to get on the field and just stand on the field, not necessarily get to meet Russell Wilson or meet this player or this coach. I think it was one of the assistants before they cleaned house, so I lost my in over there. But I mean, it takes serious connections to even just get close to them, right? Not necessarily even guarantee you're going to get a photo or an autograph or a conversation with them. So I feel like NASCAR tries to NASCAR, the tracks, the teams all try to make a pretty good effort to give the fans a lot more access than the other sports do. And I mean, I guess I can't really touch on it because I don't know, right? Like, I don't know how many other, I don't know if, like NFL teams are getting fan mail and they're having their players come in and sign stuff. But like we were talking about earlier, I went and sat. If you're sitting in a suite, I feel like you're not going to get an experience with the fans like that.
No,
you're
not
sitting
at
down right by the bench. Your interaction is different, right? And I can't really speak on that like you can, TJ.
I think that where I get lost.
So that was what Tyler Reddick had to say, one of Joey Logano's peers in the NASCAR Cup Series. He honestly sounds like he agrees 100% with what Logano says. Again, I think both of them are off the mark here. Let's listen in to what the rest of the team has to say here.
Here is I think that sometimes you get confused with access versus being seen. Like Kyle Larson stands at the back of his trailer at these dirt races and will meet every single person that is lined up there, and they take pictures and the line goes on for hours and hours and hours, it looks like. Joey references walking out of the drivers' meeting and signing a handful of autographs. Is that that's get close to us, or they can walk out in the grid and take a picture with me 5 minutes before the race?
No, they can't.
No, they cannot. Some people can. Maybe it's sponsorship or a guest of the team
or if you
might
can
be able to get a
sneak
grid
onto pit
picture.
road.
But those people don't have access. You talked about like the way you got access to the football game was you had to know some people. Like I know how many. I mean, I know you don't know this number off the top of your head. Maybe you can say one or twice a week. How many meet and greets are you doing a week?
At the track, I feel like we got
Hold on a
4
second.
to 5 number.
But how many are public?
Yes, that's my point.
Oh, it's public, and you can walk up and no, it's all like
it's all sponsors. It's
sponsors with Beast
guests of the team. It's never just like, hey, come in the hauler and hang out with Tyler.
There's
like
no
that's
souvenir. There's no souvenir deal. You're going to be here for an hour.
Yeah, I mean, and you do stuff out in the fan zone.
That is one thing that maybe could change that a little bit, right? Like I feel like when it comes to merchandise, like depending on what your deal is, I feel like there's a good number of drivers out there. There's some drivers like Kyle Larson, I think Elliott. There's other drivers that have it set up really good to where in a way you get rewarded or you're getting something out of it, right? Like, and then there's others that probably don't see much, if not any, of merchandise sales. So you're not really, I know that sounds bad, right? But you're not really incentivized for the right or the wrong reasons to interact, right? So that's something I think that could certainly make that better, right?
I think
I think the reason though that one comment there about how Larson is so accessible during a dirt track race where he's at the back of his hauler, he's greeting fans. There's a line. I see that with Bobby Labonte. If you go to the Smart Modified tours, the local short tracks, you see the line that he gets. He's there signing autographs, selling merch, things like that. A lot of the dirt late model drivers that you just saw it at the Gateway Dirt Nationals. They have massive amounts of merch that they're selling, and they're accessible at those haulers, selling those merch and then talking to the people there in the haulers. You can go and walk through the pit area. You look at the NHRA. You can go through the entire pit area for the NHRA while they're rebuilding the engine. You can see them rebuilding the engine, and the driver will be out there talking to you. John Force, the big names, they are there, and so I think that is valid criticism, and I think completely refutes what Joey Logano is saying when he's trying to compare them to other sports. Sure, the NFL might be the exception, but if you look at a lot of the other sports, especially if you look at other divisions in stock car racing, they aren't as accessible. Maybe Formula One is a little bit different, and maybe that's kind of where he was coming from, given the Formula One race that happened in Las Vegas and all the comparisons that people in the media are making between Formula One and NASCAR. But I definitely think that NASCAR is not as accessible as, say, the local, like your dirt tracks, like you look at the World of Outlaws, you look at the Lucas Oil Late Model Dirt Series, you even look at Cars Tour, the asphalt on there, the Smart Modifieds, the Wheeling Tour. Those guys are very accessible, and usually when they come into town, I know my local track at Dominion Raceway, they will have a big meet and greet when the Smart Modifieds come into town, where you can go out into before the race and meet all of those guys and walk up and down the entire front stretch where they're all parked and talk to them. And you usually can talk to them for a significant amount of time and kind of really get to know these guys a little bit. So there's a lot of access in the lower levels of the NASCAR and these other divisions. But let's listen to what Joey Logano had to say. He appeared on Sirius XM NASCAR Radio to kind of clarify what he was saying and respond to the criticisms that were sent his way from the Door Bumper Clear podcast. Let's listen to what he had to say here.
Been busy, as you mentioned, and we haven't had a chance to speak to you here on the show for a few weeks. The last time we were here, we got into a conversation about driver access and fan interaction, and you had some things to say about that. And in my opinion, some of that maybe got taken out of context, and there was a little discussion around that. I know maybe something you wanted to address of what you said back with us a few weeks ago and sort of how that conversation went thereafter.
Well, we had the classic pot stirring, clickbait type things that got taken out of context and then blown out of proportion. That's what happened. And I was like, well, I guess I need to clear this up. I didn't even know this was happening because I have the habit of just kind of living my life. And then someone came to me and was like, hey, do you know all this is going on about what you said? I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. Like, what did I say? I said, so here's the backstory. I said our race fans are spoiled because of the access that they get compared to other sports. And that got taken as Joey Logano says race fans are spoiled. I'm like, no, that's not what I meant at all. What I meant to say and what I did say was that the access that race fans get is incredible. And I love it, by the way. I love that fans have this access because remember, before every race car driver was a race car driver, they were a race fan. And I remember as a child going to the racetrack and wanting to meet my hero, right? My race car driver hero. That was a huge deal to me. And that memory is always in my mind all the way through the weekend. And the access that NASCAR gives compared to the NFL, the NBA. I mean, shoot, I went to a Clippers game after we won the championship, and they let me sit courtside. It's the coolest thing in the world. But I did not meet one player or even think about one of them coming over to say hello to me or anything like that. They had no public appearance right before the game. And if I compare that, I'm just saying, if I compare that to what NASCAR offers the race fans, that a grandstand ticket, this is a fact, a grandstand ticket before the race, that you can come down for driver intros right where the drivers are and stand right next to the cars where they have, like, in the infield, the grassy area. And the fans are right there. And I go over and say hello to them, especially if you're wearing a 22 hat, by the way. That helps too. But
Right to the front of the line with that. Yeah, I get it.
So he's basically just I think he's comparing apples to oranges here. He's comparing pregame warm-ups to being on the court during the game. I think those are two different things. Again, like when you see that in the NHL, I don't know if the NBA does it. I don't know if the NFL does it. I do know the NHL does it. I know for a fact. I've been to the games in the NHL. The players will indeed give pucks, sticks, etc. to fans watching the pregame warm-ups, and will say, like, maybe you can't really talk to them because you got the glass and everything that's in between, but they will say, like, they'll wave at you, they'll throw a puck over the glass, and they will give you things as well. So I think that is very similar to what he's talking about here. So I don't think that the access is more with NASCAR. And again, I think he's still I think people were very clear on what he was saying, and I don't think they took it out of context. I think they're just disagreeing with his opinion here. But let's continue.
yeah, that helps for sure. But I was saying that, boy, we as race fans, and I'm including myself, don't have much room to complain on that subject. Is it hard being a race fan from other standpoints? 100%. Weather, always a challenge, no doubt. Cost of being a race fan is expensive. Camping, hotels, tickets, it's not cheap to go to a NASCAR race. 100%. It's not easy to be that, but I will say that we give great access to our fans, and it's unfortunate, and it was pretty frustrating to hear where this went, because I feel like I try to do so much for the sport because I love it and I care about the people in it. That's why I'm on the driver advisory council, because I want to make it better for everybody. I don't get paid to do that. I do it because I think I want to make it better for the next generation of not just racers, but race fans. And so I do this. I do the show. I did 20 plus fan appearances away from the racetrack last year. So when I heard what some other educated people saying about what I am and what I do and attacked me, it was really frustrating and made me mad. And I thought, well, I probably need to clear this up because we have people that are undereducated about our sport speaking with a microphone, and that's not okay. And I just feel like as a sport, we need to make sure some things are clear, and for myself personally. And so, yeah, that all happened. And I thought, boy, I need to come on here and clear this crap up because the bottom line is I love my race fans. I love all race fans. And the facts are we give great access. I might not be able to meet every single race fan that's at the racetrack. It's impossible for me. I can't do it. But I get as many as I possibly can. And I do a lot of appearances away from the racetrack that fans are able to come to. The public fans, not like special access stuff, right? Like anybody can come and meet me and say hello and do all that. And a lot of the race car drivers do that.
Well, the
Not
interest
just me.
So I agree with him that they do give decent access, but I think the issue is that he's comparing it, saying that they had the best access, because that's initially what he said, and he was saying fans were spoiled because of that access. When if you look at other racing divisions, you can clearly see that it doesn't have the best access. Like I said, you look at an NHRA, you can go into the pits and see and talk to the drivers while they're rebuilding the engines and things like that, and they're right there, easily accessible. You can go to your local short track when they have meet and greets and go on the track and talk to the drivers on the track. You can go after every single Saturday night race and go down and talk to the drivers after everything has concluded. Maybe some of the guys are trying to leave early, but a lot of them are down there that you can go in and still talk to them. There is a lot of access there that NASCAR simply doesn't have anymore. And I think one of the reasons why they don't have that access anymore is because they aren't doing the amount of practice sessions and things that they used to do when they were at the track, where you could show up early and maybe get even more access. You could be at the practice and you talk to the drivers and everything when they have some downtime, when they're not working on the car or they're out on the track practicing. So I think there is definitely a lot of room for improvement with NASCAR, and I think they can really kind of look at what a lot of the lower divisions in NASCAR and these other racing divisions are doing to find better ways to give fans access to the drivers and to the sport to help grow the sport. But those are kind of my thoughts on the matter. I think that Joey Logano is wrong, and I think the criticism he received I think Tyler Reddick's wrong too, and I think the criticism he received there from that one host on Door Bumper Clear podcast, I think, was pretty justified, and I don't think he was taken out of context. Maybe we didn't listen to all of the Door Bumper Clear stuff, so maybe there was someone else who was kind of directly attacking him, but I didn't really hear that in that clip that we listened to. It was mainly just like disagreeing with his argument, and I don't think there's anything really wrong with that. But let me know what you guys think of this. Let me know in the comments below.